Hello, my loves. How are you? So, I'm going to go into some masculine messages today because ever since last night, I've been feeling like something is shifting with the masculines. And it feels actually like the feminines are probably feeling some of it too. It's creating a little bit of an awkward in between worlds type of energy. And we're just going to go into it. I feel also, I want to just tell you really quick. I did the second um resolving money wound session yesterday, and I just want to tell you something specific about that. In the second one, it was specifically about worthiness. And I feel like this is intersecting with what is shifting between the masculines and feminines. I know it's about money, but it's really about how money is, or the issue, not money in and of itself, but the issues around money and survival and safety are some of the topics that are actually in between the sacred union energies fully stabilizing. But I also feel like that's like what we're working on and what we're seeing on the collective stage. So yesterday when I was guided to go into the session and it was connected to, there was like a frozen aspect around worthiness. And this absolutely feels connected to feminines and masculines, just a human feeling where just the way society has been set up, there's this um, energy that puts us in a position to have money in order to survive and live and function. And then it gets connected to people's identity or how they feel successful or how they're accepted by others. And this isn't for everybody all of the time, but these are some of the general things that we're seeing. Even the topic, somebody wrote in the comments how their masculine is actually a physician and wrote books, and that he doesn't have a problem with money. And that may absolutely be the case. But I also want to acknowledge that sometimes even people who have lots of money are now actually locked in or feeling a little bit suffocated or frozen because now they have to keep performing at that level and making that amount of money, or in order to feel safe. Okay, so I mentioned that a few videos ago where even people that I've known who are like met that were millionaires or making $500,000 a year still had some of those same exact fears as people who were trying to figure out how they were going to get their next meal. And it's obviously not the same level of true survival, but I've witnessed people experiencing those levels of fear in a very similar fashion, even when they've had quite a bit of money. So that sometimes is just survival fears, and sometimes it is connected to people's feelings of worthiness or feeling good enough and being able to sustain those levels of providing for their family or for themselves. Anyway, this whole video, it feels like it's not, doesn't necessarily feel like what is shifting with the masculines is financial or monetary. It might be, but what it actually feels like to me is where we're working on shifting our connection to that and dropping into our own worth, right? No matter how we identify, but loving ourselves and um, separating money from our worth and our identity, but still having a positive, healthy relationship with money. There's something within that energy. I don't know about for any of you, but again, it feels like it's definitely shifting something collectively. And of course, I'm not saying that we're the only ones doing this work by any means, but it does feel relevant and supportive for the process. So again, I want to touch in, I want to open up some messages um, from the masculine for the masculine for your inner masculine if you identify as a feminine. And let's just see, I don't know, it just, how can I express to you? There's this sense that things are something, it's like maybe I'm even feeling it within my own system where as we're working on this topic that's so root chakra and physically world oriented, it's like helping us get underneath um to deeper layers. And what it feels like to me is like where we're actually able to stabilize true love, sacred union in our worth as a human being versus that survival safety mechanism connected to money and finances. We know it's a part of the topic, it's part of the puzzle. But okay, this makes sense. So, masculines, the straddling worlds wandering between realms. So, this goes exactly with the awkward energy that I've been sensing. It's like you can get flashes of seeing very, very clear snippets of the future and how beautiful it feels and how aligned it feels. And then it's almost like everything gets foggy and it's where everything gets awkward and where it's shifting in one foot in the old. And okay, so what I'm seeing is sort of like sometimes we say one foot in the old and one foot in the new, but what I'm feeling is actually, wow, okay, where the masculines are still feeling held in the roots in the old energy, but this higher light, this higher vision is starting to come into the higher chakras. And what I'm seeing is it's streaming down into the lower chakras. And okay, this is coming through via the masculine perspective, but I know that the feminines are working on this as well. So it's like where the higher energies, where the feminines are actually helping to ground the higher visions around prosperity, money, safety, security, the physical material world. It's like that is what is disrupting the foundation for the masculines. But this disruption is like where the soil gets disrupted and fertilized so that the seeds can grow. And so this is where what I'm sensing, and I'm curious for any of you who are in touch with the masculine or any masculines here, is there this feeling of like finally being able to start to see the light, the pathway forward, the potential? And as I'm saying this, is what I'm seeing this vision of a masculine who's been buried and maybe since the separation with the feminine just went back to what they knew and have kind of been in this bubble, like this dome, almost like this protective bubble of not really looking at a whole lot out of what they were doing. But what I'm seeing is sort of like the dome got pierced by the light, and the light is getting into their realm, their dimension, what they've been working on, and it's starting to again disrupt it. But it's the interesting part is it's again it's like a tower moment, but not in a negative way. It's like, oh, you're okay with what you are doing, but look at it could be so much better. And so it's catching their attention is how this is coming through. Very interesting. I can feel it in the energies. It's like that old dome, the old membrane is starting to dissolve. And now I talked about the feminine, like grounding in the light, but it's also like the streams of the geomagnetic storms and the solar flares. And I'm seeing like lightning storms. And we talked last year about the lightning being connected to the awakening of the masculine. And I know we've heard and seen like the masculine, once it happens, it can move very quickly. And there is almost that sense, and I'm not saying it's going to be like a day or a week, but there is that sense in comparison to what the feminines have felt. There's this sense that once those like membranes get cleared up and this new information gets integrated and grounded, embodied, it feels like there's going to be some quick shifting coming forward. And as I said that, I'm guided to get three cards from the Light Seers deck, and let's just see where this goes. Wow. Okay. So, what fell in my lap was the Queen of Pentacles, which immediately brings me to the embodied feminine in the physical world. As the feminines again are feeling at peace and comfortable with the pentacles, with the money, with their comfort, with their material world. And this queen is so embodied. Like, her eyes are closed. She's trusting the higher power. She's tuned in. I always read this crown of branches. It feels like her earthly, it's like a very earthly antenna. It's representing how very connected and grounded she is to the earth. And in this way, it's like what it feels like to me is this embodiment that we're speaking about with a healthy relationship to the physical, material, monetary world. Because this is a feminine who is deeply soulfully connected not only to the higher power, but the nature, right? She's sitting out in nature, surrounded by nature. Yeah, she's in this cozy, luxurious, comfortable seating and clothing, very natural, yet very luxurious, and holding her pentacles. This to me feels like a very balanced, harmonious feminine with the material world, with the comforts and the um that flourishing feeling, even beyond the surviving and thriving. This is like I've grown, and I'm just letting things work for me in the background as I flourish, right? And this doesn't mean she's never taking action, but it's like, you know, this feminine can be. And I'm saying she because it's a feminine on the card, okay, loves? You know, however you identify. So let's see. I feel like this is coming up because this has always been a key. This has always been a key shifting point for the collective as the feminines take all of that higher chakra, higher power energy and allow themselves to land clearly, directly, embodied into the lower chakras, addressing those topics that have been heavy for many in the collective and where the masculines have held it down. This is like that key point. The feminine's embodied in all of the chakras with the internal union energies is like what I'm seeing. It's almost like the coin, and we see this in this deck specifically. The coin is the seed is the coin, right? It's the money, the resources, the crops, the representation of resources in general. Okay. So this is a queen who is resourced physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, relationally. This is a queen who is embodied in those sacred feminine, masculine energies. Okay, let's see. This feels like such an important key that is what is allowing the masculines to then start to look up, right? To straddle the worlds, to start also rebalancing their lower chakras up into the higher chakras and allowing their higher knowing to stream down. We've talked about this many times. What I'm feeling is different, about now at this point is the fact that the embodiment is happening in a much clearer, deeper, director way. And it's creating a bigger shift for the collective. So we might go through similar rungs or similar patterns, but the energies are getting deeper and more stable each time we retouch on similar topics. Yeah, this feels like, okay, what else do we got? Wow. Okay. So we have another queen. We have the Queen of Swords, and it sort of like hit the table and flew across. And to me, this is actually feeling where a deeper inner truth is thawing for the feminine, which is part of what is thawing this deeper inner truth for the masculine. And what is coming through with this, what I'm feeling is a point in between in the shared space that may already be in process of thawing, but what's coming through is the willingness for the feminine and the masculine to be willing to look at all of the truth. There's some sort of emotion that the feminines um didn't close out. It's still there, it's still present, but it's really being held back. And actually, what's coming to me is perhaps where the feminines quieted their love, not shut it down, but pulled it back to allow the masculines to go on their own journeys, as well as to for the feminines to refocus their energy back to their own inner union. What I'm feeling is that there's a deeper state of that true love within the heart space between the masculine and feminine that is also thawing as the feminine drops into the roots and the masculine opens up through the crown. And that middle ground in the heart space is thawing out in a new way within both the masculine and feminine. And again, two queens is really, you're really moving into those empress energies, which would inspire and evoke the emperor to come forward. So I said I was going to get three. Let's get one more. Okay, two came out. So we have the Ten of Cups and the Wheel, but the Ten of Cups is in reverse. And this to me is feeling like where the past iteration of the Ten of Cups is actually in process of, okay, how do I want to say this? It feels like the Ten of Cups is coming to fruition, but there's still some things that are clearing out of the way from the past cycle. So what I'm seeing is actually where maybe, the feminines had a clear vision of what the potential of the connection could be. Maybe the masculines put that on ice and the feminines worked what they could or are working it. But then there's sort of this realization that sometimes you just have to let go of what it was so it can transform into what it is now. And what I'm feeling with some of that fogginess I was talking about is where the overlay, right? Those membranes are shifting off so that the clarity of it's like in process of recalibrating, restabilizing so that the true energy can return with clarity, with an actual direction. Okay. So some of you may be feeling glimpses of the original sacred union energy visions you were given, and you can sense it. But what I'm seeing is that you may actually feel it and witness it in a new way because you've both been evolving. So it might feel closer, or when you look at it, you may feel that both of your energies have grown and evolved and embodied. So the whole vision is actually gaining clarity. Um, and what I feel behind this is like a very tempered, steady energy. I'm not feeling a pushing or a pulling from the feminine. I'm feeling that deeply embodied Empress energy, which is what is allowing the old membranes to dissolve and resolve out. Okay. And again, so you have the feminine balancing on the coins, right, of the wheels turning. So as the feminine is comfortable again navigating those energies, moving through the shadows, balancing the shadows and the light of the physical world, of the um distorted or like devil energies, the dissociation energies, as the feminine is allowing themselves to like just drop in and let that transmute as they reframe their connection to the physical world and using what's available, the resources, the money, the nature, the food, the seeds as resources, and allowing their energy to be the main course, right? Your worth, again, this goes all the way back to the beginning, you embodying into your worth, not because of what you have in the physical world, but because of what you hold and what you are and who you are embodied, that allows you to navigate the material world in your emotions and be open to receiving the full cup of everything that you have been working for. Okay. So, however you resonate with this, however you connect with it, clearly it started out as a masculine message, but really wanting to get through this this energy to the feminines, how important your embodiment and transformation truly is to the masculine. You see, they're both straddling. Feminine is balancing side to side, the masculine is balancing heaven to earth, right? In these photos at least. So there's like a recalibration of all of that in the internal unions, right? The four directions. So regardless again of how you identify, straddling heaven and earth, the human self, the higher self, and the inner masculine and feminine. I do want to get one more from the masculine. Closing door completion. So it does feel like something is completing out for the masculines. And I feel actually guided to go into a part two for this to find out more deeply what is closing out and opening for the masculines. Because for me, I always see this card, as one door closes, another one opens. And it feels like as they're opening to this new higher energy, something from the past is closing as this light is opening and it's in mid process. But what I'm going to go into in the part two is like, what is actually closing and what is reopening or opening in a new way as this starts to complete out. Okay, my loves, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Again, part two will be in the pinned comments. Take care. Peace.